Gosh, budgeting prioritization, being able to know what to work on. Prioritization is also a challenge, and Odile mentioned it as she was talking about budgeting, because once you prioritize, you can go into PI planning. Your thoughts on prioritization?
Yeah, I couldn't agree less with you that prioritization is one of the cornerstones or pillars of agility in general, making sure you're working on what's the most important thing to work on at that moment in time. Even if it's just one or two teams you have or an entire enterprise, you need to make sure that you're prioritizing appropriately at that level. Either you're prioritizing with the mindset of what will benefit us as a whole organization, or you're prioritizing what will benefit you as an individual team. So I think it's really key, a key step in our LPM journey. I think one of the challenges, one of my recommendations, let me not continue to hit the negative drum so much, but one of my recommendations is that prioritization is not looked at as a one-off activity. So in many organizations, they might only do prioritization at the beginning of the financial year, and they don't do it again. And they leave that prioritized list and they work on that regardless. And at the end of the year, when they realize they've delivered everything on the list, but then from a revenue perspective or from a system stability perspective, they've always had downtime on their systems, or they've not hit the revenue targets. And the way to try and avoid that is to make sure that prioritization is done across your financial year. You might choose to look at your priorities weekly if you can. You might choose to look at your priorities quarterly. You might choose to look at your priorities every half year. But then it must be something you look at a regular basis. The cadence again, looking at your prioritization, examining what's happening externally and also internally with your systems. Are your systems as stable as they used to be? Maybe there's a new security bug, that's a new hacking protocol that's been developed by some people sitting somewhere, and it has a potential. Look at your priorities, reprioritize that, bring that on top. Or there's a new opportunity in the market. You need to do this periodically to get the benefits of your LPM. Because your LPM will make sure that your teams are working on what links to your strategy. And the only way you get your strategy down to the teams is making sure you have that rich backlog of things that people can work on and making sure it's prioritized. That's my biggest take on prioritize. There are multiple ways to prioritize items. We've got WISGIF from a scaled agile perspective. We've got I like white elephant estimation. It's one of my pets. I love using that form. You could use your planning poker. You could use even I learned about a new one, rock, paper, scissors, lizard and smoke or something like that. There are multiple ways of prioritizing, but choose what fits your organization. Some organizations, to start off, just use t-shirt sizing, and that might work for them. But as you go along and as you gather more information, relook at your priorities, evaluate them again, and then you begin to execute all over again the next PI or during the PI. Continuously do that.
Thanks so much. Had a strong start. We've talked about challenges, we've talked about the positives, but with the big question on most people's mind, who would like to start the journey, is how do we get started with the LPM? Odile, over to you.
Yeah, so I would say get educated, because it is not so easy concept. And it's going to shake also and disrupt the way that you've always been doing it. And once we get started with money, prioritization, decision making, it can be very difficult for the traditional way of doing stuff to really understand. So get educated, get the alignment. Make sure that you also understand your current problems with your organization, why we are struggling with aligning the portfolio with the execution. Because once you got agile release trained and they're very mature, they will deliver. But if you give them garbage in, they will do garbage out very efficiently, very cost efficiently, but it's not going to help them. So get educated, try to find out problems that you want to get solved. Then align. Okay, where are we going to start? Do we want to start with the whole thing, or do we want to start with a particular portfolio that is in danger? I have a sense of urgency. And then you need to organize yourself. So, hey, who are we going to have the roles? How are we going to do with our processes? All the pillars that we mentioned with decision making, this is going to be important. And then get started. Have a clear Kanban view. Have the population of your epics, even if they are projects, get started, make sure that you know, and then start having those discussions during the events to align, and then learn, grow, make mistake, do some problem solving, and get better. And last but not least, measure, so that you get more into the rhythm of continuous relentless improvement. Because trust me, it costs a lot of time to get it right, and you will never get it perfect, but at least you grow this resiliency muscle that we talked about. It's a transformation. So you need to build up the stamina and the muscle to be able to react and improve as you go along.
Fantastic, Odile. Fantastic. Josh, what are your recommendations based on experiences you've had and shared so far?
One of the big things for me is vision, understanding where we're going to at the end. So there's a concept or something I've used in the past. It's very the postcard from the future. So I think, like I said last time when we were talking about journeys and teams, you need to know your map, where you're going to before you even start. So I think from a lean portfolio perspective, having that postcard from the future, which basically says what your end state should potentially look like, helps you to set the path on which you go to actually begin to train up people, begin to set up the guardrails, begin to get the right people in the right roles, the right groups of people in the right roles, and then begin to make sure your teams are aligned properly to execute against that. I think that postcard of the future for me is always the biggest thing. Like, even on a personal level, you can all have postcards of the future for yourselves, So how much more for an organization? So I can send a postcard to myself and say, this is Joshua from 2045. I remember when you were in 2022 and you spoke to them at Lit, and just explaining things you expect to be able to do in the future. You're outlining that as your portfolio vision, then allows you all as a collective unit to have a target post that you're aiming for. And I think I relate that to looking at Portugal yesterday. They played a wonderful football game. I don't know if all of you are into football, but Portugal played a scintillating game yesterday, scoring 6-1. Would you have imagined Cristiano Ronaldo would not have been on the field? But the coach had a vision for the overall team. And the vision for the overall team was they would progress to the next round. And Cristiano Ronaldo bought into that vision. You could see it. When they scored the goals, he was celebrating with everybody. He was smiling and he was laughing. But everybody in the team bought into the vision and they worked towards that vision. Regardless of their personal desires or personal wants, they all worked towards that goal and played their part. And that's how your portfolio needs to be. You need to have a vision, a collective goal of how you want that portfolio to be structured. You want the portfolio to be quick with decisions, responding to the market, delivering value faster and faster each iteration. The portfolio should be a portfolio that can be looked at from industry as a star, as the portfolio we all want to be like. You have that definition, it then shapes the way you behave. It then shapes the way you structure your organization. It shapes the people you hire even. that it shapes the way you reward your employees, because they all know how they buy in. So that for me is my biggest nugget that I'd leave with everyone, is that have a postcard of the future for your lean portfolio. What do you want it to look like 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now? How do you want it to evolve your business?
And I'll ask Joshua for his last words, and then Odile for her last words.
I think personally, whilst we still wait for my take on my last words on the portfolio is, it's not an easy journey. It's not an easy journey. It requires some level of grit, some level of determination to get it right. You can't, from my experience, do everything at once, but you need to know what you want to look like and then begin to evolve it out bigger and bigger, and to the point where it reaches that structure you're looking for. So in terms of closing remarks, if I may say, for this is, know your end state, but evolve it as you go along. Don't try and eat the whole cake with one bite. Cut it into small pieces and eat it gradually, and you get your lean portfolio set up. You don't just go straight in with a participatory budget, the hardest of the whole cake. You probably start with having a structure of how you visualize your portfolio work, and then you begin to look at discipline in terms of how you move things along the portfolio, artifacts that you use in the portfolio. Importantly, measuring so that you can make those data-driven decisions as a portfolio. As a portfolio, you need to make decisions that will result in value for the organization, and that value ultimately may be measured in relation to money in the bank for the organization, reputation for the organization. So you should be able to measure how you're getting towards those boundaries. How many clicks are you increasing on your on your website if it's a commercial organization where you're selling stuff? How many more clicks are you getting? How many more conversions are you getting as you roll out more and more products or services? How more stable is your platform as you enable more, you push more enablers through your measure, but then don't get obsessed with measuring for measuring's sake. Measure so that you can make those decisions that move the dial. If you're measuring and not moving the dial, then you need to look at how you're measuring again. Measure the right things so that you can move the dial and move the organization forward.
Thank you, Josh. Odile.
It's a tough call to follow on Josh's recommendation because I think he's got it spot on. Again, it's a journey. And if you do it incrementally, dream big, but start small. Start with one portfolio, one set of solutions. Get started, learn, fail, understand why, measure, grow. And later on, you will be able to replicate that to another portfolio. Then you will have to think about the coordination between the portfolios. So have this vision. I think it's very important. Get the education, get the help, get started where it hurts the most right now, and then learn, grow, and then you can replicate that. The PDCA wheel of improvement of Mr. Benny, I think that's going to be very important.
Thank you, Odile. Thank you, Josh, for this rich, exciting, deep conversation. We at LIT continuously provide webinars that incite, engage organizations that are on their transformation journey, engaging with leaders, portfolio, program, and then the team that are delivering their solutions and products. If you are going through your transformation and you want us to support you on the journey, do get in touch with us and we will help you on the journey. Thank you, everyone who's joined us, and we look forward to seeing you again when we discuss measure. But don't measure for measuring's sake. We'll be talking about OKRs, and we'll have Andrew Sales from Skilled Agile, and we'll also have Daniel Messina from LIT, and engaging with us on such a powerful topic. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you.